Level 1. The favor. You are 26 years old and you drive a delivery route for a logistics company that pays you $17 an hour. You drive the same roads every day. You know the speed cameras, the way stations, the rest stops, the best fuel prices between here and the state line. You know which inspectors wave you through and which ones open the back. You have been doing this for 3 years and you are good at it, and it is not enough. You don't think of it as smuggling the first time. You think of it as driving. You have driven this route before, the interstate, the state line, the rest stop at mile marker 94 where you always stop for coffee. You know every exit. You know which stretches have patrol cars on Tuesday mornings and which ones don't. You have driven this route 40 or 50 times over the years, and nothing has ever happened, and nothing is going to happen now. The package is in the spare tire compartment beneath the floor of the trunk. You didn't put it there. A man named Ray put it there in a parking garage on a Thursday evening and handed you an address on a folded piece of paper and told you someone would be waiting. Ray has known you for 8 years. Ray helped you out of a situation 2 years ago that you have never fully repaid. This is what repaying it looks like. You don't ask Ray what's in the package. You think about asking. You decide not to. Some questions make you responsible for the answers. The drive takes 4 hours and 12 minutes. You stay at the speed limit the entire way. You use your turn signal at every lane change. You keep the radio at a volume that feels normal for someone who isn't thinking about anything unusual. You stop at the rest stop at mile marker 94. You get a coffee. You sit at a table for 7 minutes. A state trooper comes in, gets a coffee, leaves. You watch him leave. You wait 2 more minutes. You get back in the car. The handoff happens in the parking lot of a storage facility on the outskirts of a town you've never been to. A man you don't know walks toward your car from a white pickup truck. You open the trunk. He takes the package from the spare tire compartment without speaking. He hands you an envelope. You don't open it until you're back on the interstate. $500 in cash. You drive home in 3 hours and 58 minutes because you push the speed slightly on the return trip. There is nothing in the car anymore. You feel the absence of it in a way you didn't feel the presence of it. The trunk is just a trunk again. You don't hear from Ray for 3 weeks. Then he calls. Same route. Same arrangement. You say yes before you finish thinking about it. The $2,000 you still owe him has a way of making decisions feel simpler than they are. You do it a second time. You do it a third time. By the third time you have a system. You know where to stop and where not to stop. You know how to arrange the items in your car so nothing looks like anything. You know the weight of the spare tire compartment, fully loaded versus empty. You know which pump to use at which gas station and how long to stand there. You know how to look like someone who has been making this drive for years. You have been making this drive for years. That part isn't even a performance. After the third run, Ray tells you that you're good at this. He says it the way someone says it when they've been watching you more carefully than you realized. You understand in that moment that the debt is no longer the point. The debt was the door. You walk through it, and now you're on the other side, and the door doesn't lead back the same way it led in. You make $4,500 over the 3 runs. You tell yourself you'll stop after the debt is clear. The debt clears after the second run. You do the third one anyway. The 4th time Ray calls you, ask him what's in the packages. He pauses. He says it's better if you don't know. You already knew that. You asked because you wanted to hear what he said when you asked. Now you've heard it. You tell him you'll do it. You are not a smuggler. You are someone who drives. That is what you tell yourself on the way out of the parking garage with an address on a folded piece of paper in your jacket pocket and a package in the spare tire compartment that you didn't put there. The interstate is clear. The coffee at mile marker 94 is the same as it always is. Nothing happens. Nothing ever happens until it does. Level 2. The route. Ray doesn't ask you to do it the 5th time. He asks if you want to start doing it for yourself. The difference is straightforward. Working for Ray, you carry what Ray gives you and collect what Ray decides you're worth. Working for yourself, you source the load, you find the buyer, you keep the margin. Ray still connects you to the supply side for the first 3 months. He takes a referral fee. You don't ask what he's getting from the other end. You have learned not to ask that kind of question. The first load you run independently is pharmaceuticals, not the kind sold over the counter. Prescription medication, moving from a state where the supply is loose to a state where the demand is high, and the price difference between the two covers your costs 4 times over. You drive a panel van registered to a cleaning company that doesn't exist. The medication is in unmarked boxes labeled as janitorial supplies. Nothing about it looks like anything. That's the point. You learn the crossing patterns over the first 6 weeks. Which days the queues are long and the inspectors are tired. Which days they're running spot checks. You keep a log in a notebook you keep in the apartment and burn after 30 days. The log tells you which crossings to use on which days and which lanes move fastest and which inspectors wave vans through without opening the back. You learn that consistency is suspicious. You rotate. The second load is cigarettes. Taxed in one state, untaxed in another. The difference is $4 a pack, and a van holds a significant number of packs. The margin per run is better than the pharmaceuticals, and the risk profile is considerably lower. A box of cigarettes does not trigger the same response as a box of medication if someone opens the wrong door at the wrong moment. You run cigarettes twice a month for 4 months. You use 3 different vehicles. You use 2 different routes. You use one rule. Never carry the same thing twice in the same week. The third category is electronics. Devices with no import documentation, no duty paid. Moving from a point of entry to a distribution network you have no visibility into and no interest in understanding. You pick up. You drop off. You take an envelope. The electronics loads pay the best of the 3. They also move the slowest, which means more time on the road with something in the back that makes a noise in your chest that the other loads don't quite make. By the end of the first year, you have run 43 loads across 4 categories, 3 routes, and 2 border-adjacent crossings. You have not been stopped. You have not been searched. You have been waved through 43 times by people doing their jobs in the way that people do jobs that are too large for the number of people doing them. You buy a second vehicle, a plain domestic sedan registered to a name that is not quite yours, a variation, a middle name used as a first, and address 2 towns over. A friend of a friend handles the paperwork. You don't ask how. You pay in cash. The sedan is unremarkable in a specific way that you chose deliberately. There are 40,000 of the same model on roads in this region. None of them are worth looking at twice. You stop working shifts at the logistics company after month 9. You tell them you have a family situation. They don't ask for details. You leave on a Friday, and you don't feel the absence of it the way you expected to. The job was $17 an hour. The route is not. Ray calls you twice in the second year. The first time he wants to know if you have capacity for an additional load on the Northeast Corridor. You say yes. He takes his referral fee. The second time he asks how you're doing. You say fine. He says good. There is a pause. He says be careful. You ask what he means. He says you know what he means. You do know what he means. The operation is clean and small, and you intend to keep it that way. You are sitting in the sedan on a Tuesday evening outside a warehouse on the south side waiting for a pickup that is running 40 minutes late when your phone rings. It isn't Ray. It is a number you don't recognize. You don't answer numbers you don't recognize. The call goes to voicemail. No message is left. You sit with the phone in your hand for a moment. Then the warehouse door opens, and you put the phone in your pocket, and you get out of the car. Level 3. The network. The call from the unrecognized number turns out to be nothing. A wrong number, a scammer, you never find out which. But the call sits with you longer than it should, and a few weeks later you start thinking about exposure. You are the only person who drives every route, the only person who knows every crossing, the only point of failure in an operation that has grown larger than one person should be running alone. You hire your first driver in the 3rd year, a man who answered an ad you placed through a contact, vague about the work, specific about the pay. You train him on 2 routes before letting him run one alone. You hire a second driver 4 months later. A third comes through a recommendation you don't ask too many questions about. By the end of the year, you have 3 people driving for you, and you have stopped driving entirely. The goods change around the same time. Pharmaceuticals and cigarettes and electronics were profitable, but they required volume, and volume requires more drivers, more crossings, more exposure. Pablo, a name you got through the same channel that used to connect you to Ray, a coordinator who works the supply side of something larger, offers you a different category. Gold. Unrefined bars. No import documentation. Sourced from operations you don't ask about and don't want details on. The margin is clean in a way nothing else has been. Gold doesn't smell. It doesn't expire. It doesn't require refrigeration or special handling or a story about why a van is full of it. A kilogram fits in a coat pocket. You can move more value in one trip than you moved in 10 cigarette runs. You never speak to the person on the other end of Pablo's network. You know him only as Marcus. Pablo handles that relationship. Each month a number comes down through Pablo. How much weight to move, by when, and the number is always right, always achievable, never asking more than the operation can deliver. The routes run through 2 land crossings now, one in the southwest, one in the northeast. The gold moves in vehicle panels, in engine compartments, in freight your company declares as industrial equipment. You started a freight company 18 months ago for exactly this purpose. It has real clients, real invoices, a real office with a real receptionist who has no idea what the back office does. The legitimate business is the entire point. It makes everything else look like overflow. Your accountant sets up the payment structure. Pablo's transfers arrive through a chain that traces back, if anyone ever bothered to trace it, to an import business registered in another country. 3 layers between the payment and its source. 3 layers between you and Marcus. You think 3 is enough. You built it carefully enough to believe that. The 3 drivers don't know each other. They don't know about the gold specifically. They know they're paid well to drive specific routes on specific schedules and not look in the back. One of them, the newest, asks once what he's carrying. You tell him it's better if he doesn't know. He doesn't ask again. 18 months into the gold operation, you've moved more value than the previous 3 years combined. The freight company has grown enough that you've had to hire actual administrative staff who process actual paperwork for actual clients who have no connection to any of it. The cover has become so real it sometimes runs itself without your involvement. You meet Pablo in person exactly twice a year. Always a public place, a diner off the highway, a parking lot outside a strip mall. Always brief, never more than 20 minutes. He tells you Marcus is pleased with the volume. You ask him once what Marcus is like. Pablo says he's never met him either. Just a voice on encrypted calls and a number that arrives every month. Always right. You ask Pablo once how long he's been doing this. He says longer than you've been alive doing anything. You don't ask a follow-up question. Some answers tell you everything you need to know about how careful you should be. The freight company passes a routine state inspection in its 2nd year. The inspector finds nothing because there is nothing legitimate to find. The paperwork is real. The clients are real. The trucks that matter are never the ones being inspected on the day someone shows up with a clipboard. You start to believe the structure you built is genuinely sound. You start to relax in small ways you don't notice until later. You are at the freight company office on a Wednesday reviewing invoices when your phone rings. It's the newest driver. He's 3 hours into the southwest route. His voice is wrong before he says a word. Level 4. The load. The newest driver's voice is shaking. He's at a wait station on the southwest route, the one you've used 11 times without incident. A routine check. The inspector pulled the truck aside because the declared weight didn't match the scale reading. Not by much. Enough to ask a question. You tell him to stay calm and answer plainly. The freight is industrial equipment. That's what the manifest says. That's what he says. You hang up and you sit very still at your desk for a long moment before you call your accountant. The inspector opens the crate. Inside the industrial equipment casing is a compartment that does not appear on any manufacturer's schematic. And inside that compartment are 4 kilograms of gold bars with no documentation, no import record, no explanation that survives more than 30 seconds of questioning. The driver is detained. He cooperates completely because he genuinely doesn't know what he was carrying. He was told it was machine parts. He believed it was machine parts, and his belief is documented in the statement he gives within the hour. He asks, more than once, what's actually going to happen to him. Nobody gives him a straight answer for several hours, which tells him more than an answer would have. Customs and Border Protection opens a case before the sun goes down. By morning, they've pulled in the IRS and Homeland Security investigations. The freight company's name is on the manifest and on 11 prior crossings flagged retroactively once someone starts looking. 18 months of administrative staff processing real paperwork doesn't change what the back office was doing the entire time. The thread is right there, and once someone pulls it, it does not stop unraveling on its own. You find out the investigation has reached the warehouse on a Thursday afternoon from your accountant, who found out from a lawyer, who found out from someone who still owed him a favor. You have maybe a day, possibly less. By Thursday evening, you have a bag packed. Clothes, cash, nothing that would draw a second look at a security checkpoint. The last shipment, 4 kilograms of gold that never got logged into the company's records because you'd been meaning to and hadn't, stays exactly where it is, locked in the warehouse, becoming someone else's problem to find. A passport under a name Pablo arranged 18 months ago, back when you asked him, almost as a joke, what happens if it ever falls apart? He wasn't joking when he answered. You never thought you'd need it. You need it now. You book a flight to a connecting city under the new name. From there, onward to a country with no extradition treaty, a flight that doesn't leave until morning. You check into an airport hotel 2 hours before midnight. The room is plain, a bed, a desk, a window facing the runway lights. You order room service, you don't eat. You sit on the edge of the bed with the bag beside you, and you wait for morning the way you waited at rest stops years ago, except there is no coffee this time, and no routine to hide inside. Just a window, and the sound of planes you are not yet on. There is a knock at the door. You open it already knowing. 2 HSI agents stand in the hallway, badges out. Your name confirmed before you finish saying it's you. They don't raise their voices. One of them asks if there's anyone else in the room. There isn't. You're handcuffed in the doorway of a hotel room you paid for with a card that doesn't have your real name on it. The duffel bag still sitting on the bed behind you. Untouched, going nowhere now. The passport is the worst part of the case against you. A prosecutor only needs one document to argue premeditation, and a fake passport booked for a connecting flight to a non-extradition country is that document. The unlogged gold from the warehouse becomes a separate charge layered on top of the smuggling counts already filed. Your accountant has already pleaded. Pablo is never found. The number that used to text you every month goes silent and stays silent. Your 3 drivers testify, describing routes and schedules and the things they were told and weren't. The freight company's own manifests, accurate enough to run a real business, become the clearest evidence the prosecution has. The trial runs 6 weeks. You wear a suit every day. The passport sits in an evidence bag on the prosecutor's table for all 6 weeks, untouched, exactly where they want it. You serve 2 years. When you get out, the only employer willing to take a felony conviction tied to a federal customs case is, unsurprisingly, a company that needs someone who already understands exactly how customs gets worked around. You work in customs compliance now. Import documentation, manifest verification, weight discrepancy audits, the same kind of discrepancy that stopped your driver at that way station years ago, except now you're the one looking for it in someone else's freight. You know every place in a manifest where something can be hidden because you hid things there. A shipment crosses your desk on a Tuesday with a weight that's slightly, almost imperceptibly off. You flag it. You write the referral. You know exactly what you're looking at. The border was never the difficult part. The difficult part was everything you built between the border and yourself and how little of it held when someone pulled the right thread.